Hello, I'm Christine Rudolph, and today I'm joined by Tove Langridge, the Director of TW Fine Art. Tove has an incredible story of overcoming adversity, having arrived in New York as a student just before September 11th, and lived through the crisis and emerged with a changed city. He looks at the uncertainty we're seeing in the current world and sees the possibilities, including the rise of virtual business. Tove, thank you so much for your time today. It's very exciting to be here and to see what you've created in Brisbane. And I guess in these uncertain times, really interesting to hear that you're certainly familiar with these times, having been in New York right at the height of September 11th.
I was, yeah. I mean, I'd been there maybe almost 12 months before it happened, and I was on my way to probably my second week at university, and my partner called and said, look at the Twin Towers, can you see what's happened? I've heard of planes hit the building. So I went and I looked, and as I was looking, the second plane hit the second tower. So that was probably the biggest, well, definitely the biggest crisis I'd ever been a part of, where a city was literally shut down for a few weeks, and then post, certain neighbourhoods for probably 2 years, I guess, the impact of that situation.
So I guess your experience for many business owners, many young people who are going through their first big crisis in their life is really valuable at a time like this. And your story is also one of being able to diversify, because you took quite a risk and actually went to New York following your passion for the art world. But to actually get there, I believe it was a path where you had to do many different things.
It was, yeah. I mean, I'd worked in banking for 5-6 years prior to going to New York, so I was used to the regular, 9-to-5 job with a good salary. So I literally uprooted myself and went to New York and took on a 4-year degree. The Australian dollar at the time was terrible, so savings dwindled very, very quickly. And then September 11th happened as well. So I had to, I had the aim of finishing that degree. I had to. I loved what I was doing, and it was where I saw myself going in the future. So I hustled. I got a scholarship for the university, and I started working in a restaurant, and I got certified as a trainer. I'd never worked in a restaurant in my life. And it was a humbling experience, but I guess I did what I had to do to make ends meet for the pursuit of the long-term goal. Yeah, and in the end, all those experiences as a trainer, working in a restaurant, all those skills somehow have come back. And I use most of them in my everyday life now as well. So
there are so many people at the moment who are going through similar experiences to what you went through 2 decades ago, where their worlds have been thrown upside down, they've lost their jobs, their businesses have closed. And I guess your story of resilience is quite a powerful one to share. So what advice would you have for anyone who is going through something like that?
I just think sometimes you need to be humble, and accept that things aren't always how you want them to be or expect them to be. And I have to say, even when I did those jobs, I gave everything 100%, 120%. As a waiter, I tried to be the best waiter that I could. As a trainer, the best trainer I could. I never let my school suffer. I did well at university, and I came out on the other end, always kind of making sure I kept focus and worked hard. And in the end, all that helped, because I met some great people that led to jobs after that situation had passed. And then, ultimately we came back to Australia, and I've ended up with the gallery, working with the great artists that I work with, and hopefully, striving to push the market here forward with work that I think is significant on a global market, not just a regional market.
Which is something very exciting, because what you have done is quite a statement for Brisbane, having been in New York and out of anywhere in the world where you could have chosen to bring your incredible collection of international contemporary artists. What was it that made you choose Brisbane?
I grew up on the Gold Coast and in Brisbane, and I never, we didn't have a strong art scene. I don't think, it's growing over time. But when I was in New York, the internet happened, social media happened, and all of a sudden, images were available, and it didn't necessarily matter where you lived. And I think as I came to the end of my career in New York, what I really started to realize was that I didn't need to live in New York anymore to do what I wanted to do. And the reality of living in New York is you get up, it's dark, you work all day, you get home, it's dark. And New York is not the place that you experienced as a student. It's a fast-paced, high-pressure, driven culture, which is fantastic. But we wanted to have the best of both worlds. So I wanted to come back closer to my family, and then hopefully contribute to developing a scene here that I missed out on as a kid. I was forced to go to New York and leave here to learn what I wanted to learn. But I think as the world shrinks, those opportunities can be established in places that maybe they couldn't have 20 years ago. And I think Brisbane is growing. It's a modern city. It's still a cost-effective city. I could come here and I could start a gallery with more experimental work. I could make mistakes without having some ridiculous overheads that you would have in, say, New York City or Sydney. And I wanted to be part of something new rather than just kind of entering into a system again.
I think what's really interesting about your story of being in New York post-September 11 is quite inspiring for us to hear, because you were saying that you saw a complete transformation of a city that ended up coming out of the darkness. How do you think we may transform through what we're experiencing now?
That's a really difficult but interesting question, I think. I feel like culturally, socially, economically, we've been on a precipice for a while, where we're doing things that are not sustainable, mentally for people, economically for people's physical health. And this is a major crisis, but hopefully in some ways it heightens to us what's important, which I think is balance and health and working to be successful, but also working in a way that doesn't break families apart. So I hope that we start using all this technology that we've developed. I think a lot of the technology that we're using now, say for the gallery, we have customers overseas who are buying things virtually, and I think that slowly I've seen a momentum in that. What I think is the future is maybe translating experiences that are physical to a very strong virtual experience, and maybe being able to work a little bit more remotely. So we are more interconnected globally, and maybe more interconnected with our families and friends, and having a more balanced life.
I think that's a really beautiful point, because in our industry we've been forced to become a virtual industry overnight with inspections and even selling properties, even auctions. And you're saying that you've already been ahead of the curve and you're selling exquisite pieces of art here internationally for rather big ticket prices. So you've already seen that the world is ready to embrace and trust virtual experiences.
I think so. I was met with a lot of adversity though. When I first kind of came up with that concept, people said to me, that won't work, nobody will buy that online, why would you do that? But I just kind of kept with what I thought, and look at, maybe it will catch up, maybe it won't, maybe we'll have to adapt in some new way. But I know through friends of mine that there are technologies out there now that are being developed, which will definitely facilitate the experiences that I'm looking to provide. They're not there yet to the capacity that I want or that we can use, but I know they're being developed. Like there's a great app called Artland app, and what they do, they will send a videographer to your gallery. They'll literally virtually film the gallery. They'll take you up close, and you can come into the gallery. If I was using Artland app in India, and you can virtually walk around, and then you think about that experience when we have virtual reality tech, which probably isn't that far away. You will literally be able to feel. I was talking to somebody at lunch the other day, and they're building a house, and their architect, they go into their architect's office and they put on virtual reality glasses and they walk through the unmade house, so they can check and see if they think the ceilings are high enough, or if that door is far enough away from the sofa. These technologies are becoming real. And I thought, how fantastic is that? Because not everybody can read a two-dimensional map. You don't get a good sense of space. And I think the same thinking applies to art. I can look at a two-dimensional image of it, but I'm not getting the full experience. So people probably are right to distrust what they see online, because sometimes it's not exactly what you expect it will be. But with the new technologies, I think we will be able to pretty much guarantee that what you're looking at, you will know beyond a doubt that that's the piece I want, and I'm ready to pay for it and ship it. It's
incredible.
Yeah.
So it's remarkable, isn't it, to think that out of this time that's been thrust on us unexpectedly, the virtual world will now be brought to the forefront and perhaps be one of the biggest changes globally that we see.
Absolutely, yeah, and there are dangers with that too, I think. But as long as we manage it properly and we use the tools, hopefully in productive ways, it will enhance our society, I think, and enhance the way that we live.
And I guess this is tying in beautifully for your original vision that you had here in Brisbane to make us very much part of the recognised global community that we're seeing. And are you, in your experience of coming back to Brisbane from New York, seeing that the eyes of the world are very much focused on Brisbane?
Absolutely. When I first moved to New York, they would say, "Where are you from?" And I'd say Brisbane, and they would think that nobody knew where that was. And now it's actually remarkable how many people know what's going on in Brisbane. I think we've got a really, really great music scene. A lot of really good international musicians come here. People like the Gray brothers, they are making designs and making properties that are being noticed by people in the United States, people in Europe. I know many people that follow them overseas. So I think the better we do things, and through the facilitator of the internet and social media, all of a sudden what we do becomes accessible anywhere. So I think as long as you do something really, really well, people can't escape it, which I think is great for the city. So I want everybody here to do 120% and just do the best that they can and put the city on the map.
Thank you, Tove.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.